At my wedding, her dad called me a nobody. I heard it not from across a ballroom or through grapevine gossip, but 6 inches from my ear while he straightened my boutonniere with 2 careful fingers, like he was pinching a stain. "Smile big, son," he said, voice friendly enough for the photographer hovering nearby. Then, very softly, like a prayer you don't want God to hear, "Don't forget who you are in a room like this. Nobody." Have you ever had a word set a hook in your ribs? It didn't hurt right away. I smiled for the picture. I said, "Thanks, Richard," like I always did, because calling him Dad felt like asking a bank for a favor. But as he drifted toward the bar and the photographer scuttled off to chase bridesmaids, the hook tugged. Nobody. One word. And suddenly, every chair in that ballroom looked like it had name cards for everyone else. Here's the funny part. I was fine all morning. The vows were beautiful. The officiant only mispronounced my last name once. When Lauren walked up the aisle, veil catching the light, I felt the same dizzy awe I'd felt the first time I saw her across a farmer's market table, debating cherries versus strawberries like we were drafting a treaty. We said, "I do." We kissed. The violinist hit her cues. We were good. It started unraveling in the seams. The caterer handed me the wrong plate because the father of the bride had special requests. The DJ pulled me aside to ask if I could convince the family to pick a first dance that didn't require licensing fees. Our planner told me the hotel wanted a credit card on file for incidental upgrades, and then nodded toward Richard without actually saying his card had been declined or in use or something awkward that made her chew her lip. I'd paid the deposits. Lauren and I had split most of it down the middle. 2 engineers with spreadsheets need something to fight beside centerpieces, and my mom had insisted on covering the rehearsal dinner even though it meant pushing her dental work another month. I had felt proud of us. Grown. Team-like. Then the room started telling me, with 100 tiny shrugs, "You are not the team captain here." The speeches came, and that's where the word crawled back into my shirt collar. My best man, Ethan, did a perfect 3 minutes. The college story about me building a bookshelf out of cinder blocks and optimism. The night I met Lauren and forgot to order food because I was busy laughing. Everyone laughed. I relaxed. Then Richard stood. He didn't need a mic. Some men are born acoustically gifted. He tapped his glass and waited for that lovely shiver of hush. He opened with a joke about how we thought Lauren would marry a doctor, a lawyer, or I don't know, maybe an astronaut, something flashy. Laughter. He smiled. Then she brings home Sam. Sam is steady. The way he said steady made it sound like a speed bump. I watched Lauren's face to calibrate my reaction. Her smile had a brave edge. I knew that smile. I'd seen it when her mother critiqued her genes for being too practical. Richard went on. He told a story about me fixing their garbage disposal on my second visit. "He's handy," Richard said. "Every family needs a handyman." People chuckled because they didn't know my cheeks were hot. He finished with, "He might not be the flashiest, but he'll do." A line that could be engraved on a toaster. Applause. I clapped too, because that's what you do when you're steady. Lauren kissed my temple and whispered, "He thinks he's funny. Ignore him." I nodded. I tried to. But the hook tugged again. Nobody. During cocktail hour, I caught Richard at the edge of the bar with 2 of his golf friends. They were the polish and cologne kind of men who hold their jackets like flags. "He's a good kid," Richard said, where good kid was the sort of compliment you give a busboy who didn't spill. Quiet. Background type. I turned away, felt my jaw clench, and walked straight into my new mother-in-law, who kissed my cheek and said, "Don't take things personally, sweetie. Your kind of personality is vital, reliable, like a tire." Lauren and I did the rounds, collecting smiles and lipstick on cheeks. People told us we were perfect. People told us we were adorable. People told me my tie was slightly off-center. Everyone meant well, I think. I've found that meaning well often arrives in a tuxedo and leaves crumbs. At our table, someone had arranged the place cards so that I sat between an aunt who needed me to explain my job twice and a cousin who wanted to network. Across from us, Richard beamed, the sun in our small solar system. He raised his glass whenever someone looked. He owned the room because he knew how to. Generations of practice, maybe. He once told me his grandfather shook hands with a governor and never washed that story. My grandfather worked at a tire plant until his knees gave out. Different kinds of heritage. Between salad and salmon, my mom squeezed my hand. "You okay?" she asked. I lied automatically. She looked like all the overtime she'd ever worked had collected under her eyes. "It's a beautiful wedding," she said. "In that way, moms say something true and hope it patches the untrue parts." I had a plan. Smile, eat, dance, leave with my wife, and make our own story in our own hotel room that we paid for together. A story where I was not background type. I would not burn a whole house down over a few splinters. Then came the photo montage. Lauren at 6 in a Halloween witch costume. Lauren at 12 with braces. Lauren at prom, all satin and nervous shoulders. Then pictures of us. Our first camping trip, the day we adopted our dog, the time we stacked moving boxes into a fake fort because the AC broke. People awed at all the right places. And then the last slide. Richard and Lauren on a boat at sunset, his arm around her, both of them laughing straight at the camera. The caption read, "Always my girl." The room sighed. I felt the hook rip. I stood to stretch, I told myself. I went to the bar for water, I told myself. I ended up by the DJ booth, staring at the microphone like it was a fire extinguisher behind glass. "Break only in emergency." Ethan slid beside me. "Hey," he said, keeping his voice low. "You okay?" "Do I look okay?" "You look like a man who just swallowed a bee." "I think I'm tired," I said, which was true in the way that saying the ocean is damp is true. He watched me for a long second. "You don't have to take it," he said, "just because it's sprayed with champagne." "I know. Do you?" And that was the moment. Not a blow-up. Not a cinematic betrayal. Just a glass of water sweating in my hand and a question ringing truer than any toast. I set the water down. I walked to the head table and kissed my wife's cheek. "One more toast," I asked her, and my voice was steady in the way bridges are steady right before you hear that first worrying creak. She searched my face. "Of course," she said, uncertainty flickering like a candle in wind. I picked up the microphone. The room hushed. Richard leaned back in his chair, satisfied, like a maestro whose symphony was performing on cue. I raised my glass, felt the weight of it, and decided this would be my last toast as someone's nobody. The microphone was cold in my hand, heavier than I expected. I raised my glass, let my eyes sweep across the room. 100 faces looked back, smiling, waiting, clinking forks against glasses. They thought they were about to hear another harmless little toast, a few jokes, a polite thank you to the families. They had no idea what was coming. I started with the script, the one Lauren and I had joked about in the car. I thanked the guests for coming, for flying in, for dancing, for eating the dry chicken without complaint. I thanked my mom, my sister, the best man. People laughed at the right beats. The air was warm, safe. Then I shifted. "And of course," I said, turning my glass toward Richard, "a special thanks to the father of the bride." A wave of polite applause rippled. He raised his own glass back, smug, waiting for the compliment. "Because without him," I continued, "I wouldn't have learned something very important about myself tonight." The room tilted a little. You could feel the pause, the weight. I let it hang. He reminded me I'm a nobody. Not flashy, not impressive. Just steady. A handyman. Background type. A few people chuckled nervously, thinking it was part of the bit. I smiled, but it wasn't the kind of smile that makes anyone comfortable. I looked at Lauren. Her face had drained of color. Her lips parted like she might stop me, but no words came. Now, when a man hears something like that on the day he marries someone's daughter, I said, he has a choice. He can laugh it off, swallow it, pretend it doesn't sting. Or he can take it to heart. My voice was steady, but inside, I was burning. So let me make this clear. I don't want to be a nobody. I don't want to be the quiet, background guy who keeps the garbage disposal running while the real family takes the photos. I want to be with someone who doesn't just tolerate me, but actually sees me. A murmur moved across the tables like wind through tall grass. Forks clinked. Someone coughed. Richard leaned forward now, no longer smug, his jaw tight. Lauren reached for my arm, whispering my name, but I pulled back gently, still holding the glass high. "This is supposed to be the happiest day of my life," I said, "but instead it feels like an audition I wasn't supposed to pass. And if this is what marriage is going to be, if I'm expected to smile through the jokes and the quiet reminders that I'll never be enough, then maybe I've already made the biggest mistake of my life." I lowered the glass. The silence was sharp. You could almost hear the violinist's bow hovering, unsure whether to play. I set the mic down, leaned into it just enough for the last words to ring out. So I won't. Not tonight. Not ever. Congratulations, Richard. You don't have to worry about your daughter marrying a nobody. Because I'm done. I walked away from the table. Behind me, voices rose. Lauren's calling my name. My mom's startled gasp. The shuffling of chairs. But I didn't stop. I didn't just leave the reception. I left the marriage. And the doors of that ballroom closed behind me like the final click of a lock. The hotel lobby smelled like polished wood and perfume as I walked through it in my suit. Alone, glass still buzzing in my hand from where I'd set it down too hard. The concierge looked up, eyes flicking to my boutonniere, then back down again like he knew better than to ask. I half expected someone to chase me. Lauren, my best man, even Richard ready to deliver one last barb, but no one did. Just the hum of the air conditioner and my own footsteps carrying me out into the night. The parking lot lights felt too bright. My car waited at the far end, the one I'd scrubbed spotless for today, as if a shiny hood could make me look more like the son-in-law Richard had wanted. I sat in the driver's seat, door closed, silence pressing down on me. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a stuttering vibration like a heartbeat. I didn't look at it. I already knew. When I finally turned it face up, there it was, Lauren. First a call, then a text. Where are you? Another. Please come back. We can fix this. The three dots bubbled, stopped, started again. Then a new one. Don't do this to me. Not like this. I let the screen go dark. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt something close to clarity. My whole life I'd been steady. The reliable one. The safe one. The one who carried the groceries, paid the deposits, fixed the drains, filled in the gaps so nobody else had to think about them. And still, I was a nobody. I started the engine. On the drive home, the night blurred past in patches of neon and headlights. My phone lit up over and over on the passenger's seat. Her, my mom, Ethan, even numbers I didn't recognize. I turned it face down. At a red light, I caught sight of myself in the rearview mirror. Tie crooked, face pale, eyes wide but calm. Like a man who had just walked off a stage he never wanted to stand on. When I got back to my apartment, the living room still smelled faintly of rehearsal dinner leftovers. I'd left my suit bag on the couch that morning, the zipper half open. I sat down beside it and finally exhaled. Not the shaky kind of breath you take after running, but the heavy kind. The kind you don't realize you've been holding for years. The texts kept coming. One from Ethan. Man, what the hell? People are freaking out. Call me. Another from my sister. Mom is crying. Please tell me you're okay. Then, finally, one from Richard himself. Just 5 words. Took you long enough, son. I stared at it until the letters blurred. Of all the things he could have said, that was what he chose. Like he'd been waiting for me to break, and now that I had, he felt vindicated. I deleted it without replying. The apartment was quiet, eerily so. I thought about Lauren's things scattered through my drawers, her shoes by the door, the bottle of perfume she always left on my bathroom counter. I thought about how she'd smiled at me during the vows, eyes shining, like she really believed in us. And then I thought about her silence during Richard's speech, the way she'd kissed my temple and told me to ignore it. Like ignoring was a solution. Like swallowing disrespect was the cost of being with her. I picked up her shoes. Just sat there with them in my hands for a long while, leather soft against my palms. They weren't heavy, not really. But they felt like the weight of everything I'd been carrying. Her family's expectations, the endless small dismissals, the quiet laughter at my expense. I set them by the door. For the next hour, I walked through the apartment gathering her things. Not in anger. No tossing, no breaking, no petty theatrics. Just deliberate. Her dresses from the closet. The stack of books she never finished on my nightstand. Her coffee mugs, the ones with little painted flowers she said made mornings brighter. Piece by piece, I lined them up in the living room, a quiet inventory of a life that had been merging with mine and now needed to be unstitched. By the time I was done, the sun was starting to hint at the horizon, painting the blinds with faint streaks of gray. My phone buzzed one last time. A voicemail from Lauren. Her voice cracked through the speaker. Sam, please. I didn't mean for tonight to go like that. We can talk. We can fix this. Don't let one bad moment erase everything. I love you. Please, just come back. I sat there listening, the room heavy with the smell of her perfume still lingering from last night. My throat tightened, but I didn't cry. Not anymore. Instead, I whispered to the empty room. I didn't leave one bad moment. I left a lifetime of them. And for the first time in a long time, I believed myself.